watching earlier on the live stream regarding the Oakland, former Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders Stadium Authority live stream, which is quite a hoot. Shift gears now.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you for those who were watching earlier on the live stream regarding the
telling me to give me a mic test, so we're all good. This is my friend Stephanie Dominguez Walton. She is running for Oakland City Council District 1, and many of you know the score from here on out. This is her platform, and without any further ado, take it away, Stephanie.
Zenny, it's great to see you, and thank you very much for having me back. It's been a while, and a lot has happened for certain. I'll start by introducing myself and sharing my priorities with you and with your viewers. My name is Stephanie Dominguez Walton. I am a 15-year District 1 resident. I have 2 children, and my husband and I are raising them here in this community that we are deeply rooted in and that we love very much. I'm an avid volunteer, an organizer, and a community advocate. And my priorities are housing for all, equity and education, police reform and public safety, environmental justice, and equal access to healthcare. I am a 4th generation Californian on my mother's side and a proud Latina Italian American woman. My folks married very, very young. My mother actually had to elope with my father because her family was not in favor of her marrying a Mexican man. And so 1965 or 1964. So it's kind of a trip. It all worked out, and people come around and people evolve. But they were very, very young. They started with very little. My father was a gas station attendant at the time, worked his way up to graduate school at Stanford University, going to night school, at which time my mother went to work and supported our family and put him through. That was a time of struggle, but with a light at the end of the tunnel for our family. It was absolutely our singular focus to get Dad through, because when that happened, we knew that he would have job opportunity, which he did. And at the time, he and my mom borrowed $2,000 from my mother's Uncle Jimmy, and they bought a house in a neighborhood where the public schools were good. That was 1975. My parents always instilled in my younger brother and I that show up for the people that you love, show up for the people in your community, show up and do the hard work to get ahead and to do the right thing. And I watched them do that. They set that example for us. And by putting education first for us above any other real extravagances, they were hardworking people who did everything they could to provide opportunity for their children. Back in the 70s, when I noticed, we were in the neighborhood with the great public schools, my brother and I were often the only kids of color. And I look around now in Oakland in 2020, and I see opportunity not often there for children of color. Which is why equity and education is such it's a pillar, and it's a pillar of this campaign, and it is one of my priorities, and has been for quite some time. I believe that being a city leader now, and this is my first foray into elected politics, right? We have to have an open heart and an open mind to people, and we have to show up for them. Like my parents taught me to do. I think our hearts are aching now because of the murder of George Floyd and countless others. And it's what we're all talking about in Oakland. It's what we should be talking about, and it is shining a light on what could be, what the I get really kind of heated when I think about this, because here we are in 2020, and it's a tragedy that brought us to this point, or tragedies. Our hearts are aching, but our minds are open to reimagining policing and the way we operate in society, I think. I feel as though we can and we should, as a city and as elected officials, reallocate police budget, and we need to go over with a fine-tooth comb the existing budget and find out, we're going to be operating from a deficit, but how do we invest in our Black and brown communities and really do the work to promote the equity that we have so needed for generations, really. I believe that Oakland's next District 1 city council member needs to have the right values and the right life experiences that will help lead them to make the right decisions during a really tough time, during an economic downturn. They're going to be tough choices when it comes to funding programs, tough choices when it comes to, reallocating budget. And I spoke out at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago in favor of Councilmember Boss's $25 million cut for starters. We have to start. It didn't pass, and certain members of the council abstained from voting on that. I would have voted with Councilmember Boss on that, just for clarification purposes. A couple years ago, I started volunteering at a school in the district called Piedmont Avenue Elementary, and my heart is at Piedmont Avenue, and the people at Piedmont Avenue are in my heart. It's a Title I school. Many of the children there the majority of them are on free and reduced lunch. The majority of the student body is Black and brown, and the school is they're so under-resourced. It's like jaw-dropping, and it's right here down the street. It's right next door to Fenton's. It's a couple storefronts down from Fenton's. Ironically, yeah. I don't know that those kids are going to Fenton's often, or if at all. Shortly after I started volunteering there, I realized that kids were going hungry, and I inquired about this. It was 2018. What's up? And they said that the supper program had been canceled at the start of the 2018 school year. And so I started a program of my own. I enlisted the support of restaurant owners and food providers in District 1. And we were going to get started with a Storytime Supper Club on Tuesday nights, table service. How many in your party, Zenny? Like a real community building experience with wonderful meals, 140 kids every night that were going without dinner. And we were going to have community leaders come in and read to the children, so that we were really hoping that it would go a long way and kind of let kids know that we see them, we appreciate them, and we want to help lift them up. When I went to the district to let them know of my plan and I had everything in place, they told me that I couldn't do it, and they gave me some bureaucratic reasons as to why not. But then, that was soul crushing. But 3 days later, they reinstated the supper program at Piedmont Avenue Elementary School, and then the program was subsequently reinstated district-wide. So I'm so proud to have had a hand in that. And I'm still very deeply involved with Piedmont Avenue Elementary. During COVID, many of those families that relied on the meal programs through OUSD don't have means of transportation to get to the school sponsored grab and go locations. So I've been delivering for 18 weeks on Mondays and Thursdays, meals to these kids and to families. And some incredible philanthropists have jumped in. Chef Jose Andres, Jack Dorsey from Twitter, Steph and Aisha Curry came together and put a bunch of money and resources into Oakland to help restaurants provide food. And through the World Central Kitchen, I am delivering some of the most wonderful food offerings to some of these families, and it's lovely to be a part of it.
Question on that. Yeah. Is that the same program that Farley's East is involved in making?
They could be, because what Chef Jose, Jack Dorsey, and Steph and Aisha Curry did was they pumped some money into the city too, and funded food preparation and providing meals through a bunch of 200 different restaurants in Oakland. Okay. So if Farley's East was on that list, I wouldn't be surprised.
I just asked because I saw a video of them making.
Oh, then for sure. Yeah, it's
acting. Farley's East is at 33 grand, by the way, and so that's why. So, yeah,
great spot. Yeah. Great spot. And they very well could be on the list. It's a really amazing program, and so I have been thrilled to be a part of that, and it's exciting to see what they have every Monday and Thursday. This morning there was another local kitchen out there providing enchiladas for families. How many in your family? And I walked away with 4 trays of chicken and vegan enchiladas, and this is a wonderful thing to be able to provide for these people who are in need. Also, during COVID, a lot of the local businesses with whom I have relationships, and I recognize that in Oakland, so much of our economy our local economy is driven by these longstanding business owners and newer business owners, but many of whom were suffering during this time, and just I don't know if I have enough money to pay my lease, let alone when are we opening our doors and what does that even look like when the time is right. So I helped put a little cheat sheet together after the CARES Act was signed into law with explanations and links, and made myself available to many of those business owners to answer questions and help them navigate the process. And that was awesome, because many of those folks did get funding. And it was wonderful to hear afterwards a note. And I would like to call this out, because so much of what I think, so many of our conversations now since COVID and that coupled with the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Rayshad Brooks and Ahmaud Arbery, and like we can name them, say their names, is we cannot stop. In that vein, we have so many, we have a Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce, we have an African American Chamber of Commerce, a Latino Chamber of Commerce, an Asian Chamber of Commerce, and these are businesses operated by people of color who are getting PPP at a rate of 14%. I'm just going to share that. That's a system. That's part of a system, to me, that is pervaded by racism. I mean, I don't really know how else to say it. And what we need to do is really focus, I think, as a community and as elected officials and as people who are deeply, in love with and rooted in Oakland. We need to have these conversations, because that's how the system has been operating for so many generations. And it really pervades every aspect of our society. And we need to root that out of all of our systems and institutions, from housing to healthcare to education to politics. You know what I mean? And not to say that Oakland, because Oakland has a lot of representation politically, but we need more.
Hey, Steph, take as much time as you need, by the way. Just wanted you to know that.
Okay. I like being able to look at you. This is great. Sometimes on Zoom, I'm looking at like 6 different faces and I'm like scrolling through the gallery. Anyhow, so for me, things, I think about my childhood. I think about what my parents went through and the struggles that they endured to provide for their children. And I really would love to get to a place in 2020 or 2021, as we're almost there, where folks that want that education that maybe will lead them to the job of their dreams, or whatever, the job, the apprenticeship program to become a sheet metal worker and earn a living wage and have healthcare for your family and be able to live and work in Oakland and a shot at a dignified retirement. Like, all of these things are part of what makes Oakland better. And I'd love to see those opportunities make their way to people who have been marginalized for too long, so that's one of my, that I think about that all the time, and it motivates me. And I understand I have had opportunity, thank goodness for what my parents were able to provide for us. And now I'm here and I want to use that. And I'm a middle-aged woman, I've been around a while. I'm born in 1965. Anybody could do that math, talking about the years I was in school. I am ready to give back in a way with a loud voice and through collaboration and consensus. And I know people feel this way. So anyhow, that's me, and it would be an absolute privilege for me to represent the people of Oakland in this city that I have, that is my home for 15 plus years, and that I will be in until the end of my days. I promise, I vow to legislate openly and transparently and with accountability, and I will show up for you. I will call you back. I will work with you, because I need to be in and among the people of this district and of this city in order to properly represent when I get there. And it would be an absolute privilege for me. Like this has been an experience running for office, but every time I talk about the possibilities, I know I'm doing the right thing. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you got it. Definitely. Where is the campaign now? Let me. How are you doing with fundraising? What have you learned on the campaign trail? So on.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Fundraising's going really well. I have worked really long and hard on that since I announced that I was running. I think last July 31st. I was going back. I said I launched the campaign August 1st, but I looked up the first email I sent out. It was July 31st, and I mean, come on, what day is it? It's day, but I've been doing this for a year. I've been doing this for a year. I'm running against a 2-term incumbent. I'm an unknown on the political front, right? But I'm doing the work. I'm doing Zoom house parties nonstop. I actually don't have one tonight. I reserve this for you because I do have a family, and I am trying to have some balance, and I want to be with them, and I want them to know that I can focus on this pretty much morning to night, but I am their mom and I am my husband's partner. But I am doing so much voter outreach virtually. I've walked the slow streets with a mask and gloves on a number of occasions. We're really getting ready to deploy our field operation, and I've got tons of volunteers who are ready to help me get the word out. But I make a lot of phone calls. I do my calendar it's stacked, and I try to keep things to, like I'll start with 30 minutes unless someone needs an hour. And then I just roll through the day because I have got to do this legwork if I have any shot at winning. I deliver rally signs. When people, last night I had a house party, and, I was asking folks, I'd love for you to help me go through the budgets for the last 5 years, because we're going to have to find some money. Okay, there's got to be some hidden money somewhere, or there has to be a place where we can look at what have our revenues been and what have our expenditures been, and let's kind of go through that line item by line item. And there were probably 20 people on the call last night, maybe 15 to 20. It was a great conversation, and 3 of them wrote back to me last night and 3 more today. How can we help? I'm interested in helping to go through some of the older budgets. Can you drop a rally sign off at my house? So it's engagement. People want to be heard. They want to be listened to. And then they want to know, what am I going to do?
What do
What do they talk about?
What are they talking about most? I mean, what is it that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before COVID, yes. Well, before COVID, housing and homelessness was always the first thing that came up. Since COVID, people want to talk about police reform, reimagining, and reallocation of funds, and housing and homelessness. And when you look at those things, and I believe Oakland needs a strong police reform, strong police department with very strong reforms moving forward. I also, I look forward to being an active member of the council, working with police, working with our commission, who we as a city overwhelmingly voted to put into place. And we need that. We need transparency and accountability. And we need to start thinking about, we're going to have to smartly shrink these budgets at the city level, and looking at, people want to know, well, how do you propose shrinking that budget in a smart way? Well, we've got to stop sending police out to mental health checks, and homelessness encampment checks, and fender benders. I mean, those are obvious ways to start, but in terms of reform, there's the 8 Can't Wait campaign 0 proposal to, ban chokeholds and strangleholds, and announce before shots are fired, and a mandatory report of transgressions or use of force, things like this. And we need to employ all 8 of those tactics. But I think we also need to look at hiring people who have real ties to Oakland. Are you from Oakland? Were you raised in Oakland? Do you live in Oakland? I'd love to see more women on the force, and more women of color on the force. These are things that, you're going to have to work with the department that's a recruiting effort that has to happen. We have, so those are ideas that I have for starters. But I would like to see, I have 2 children who have gone through school in COVID. And my son did everything via email and Google Documents. And fortunate for him, we have internet in our home, and he has a computer. Kids that I deliver food to for the last 18 weeks do not. They don't have a device, and they don't have internet. And so you hear of kids who had, projects due at the high school level and no internet in their home, and they got to go to a parking lot to tap into the coffee shop Wi-Fi so that they can send their assignments and pass their classes. Like that, to me, there's another example, right, of the inequity. And that's just that we can't live in a city where every kid doesn't have the same level of opportunity at the public school level.
Yes, I just want to add real quick, because on Tuesday of this week, between one other news, it was a problem. There's a porta potty at Driver.
Oh, right. I was out there for that. I was at that rally.
Oh, okay. Okay, so tell me about your thoughts, because the person they mentioned that was the target of the ire was Oakland Councilmember Dan Cow, who, in full disclosure, is a vlogger on Zenny 62, although you open the vlog as well. And but they were targeting him, and they were really unhappy, and they said that Dan was opposed to having the porta potty there. You were out there for the rally. Tell us about it from your point of view.
So there's nowhere for human beings in Oakland who don't have homes to go to the bathroom. That's what this was crowdsourced. It's in the plaza. Until we can come up with a better solution, where else are people going to relieve themselves? They're not, and that it's human rights. Exactly. It's human rights. And they broke it down very simply. It was actually a really an incredible group of Oakland residents. There was unbelievable sense of community there. Auntie Frances was there. There's food for everybody. There were care packages so that people can stay. I brought a bunch of these out. I have them in little packs of 2, and people need masks. They need hand sanitizer. That was there. We did 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence at the start of the thing. It was like, it was the most moving. And, I've been to a lot of rallies since George Floyd's murder. I've been in community with a lot of my people, Oaklanders, people from Berkeley, did that labor walk from the BART station down to Sproul Plaza, and watched a probably 70-year-old white man get on his knee and put his fist in the air in the middle of an intersection. And I was like, I just stood there and watched him for 20 minutes. And like, come on, buddy, this is what it's going to take, right? But when you go out to Driver Plaza and you're looking at people who love Oakland just as much as we do, and they need, that's dignity, man. it's there, it's contained, it's being cleaned, it was crowdsourced. Leave it there.
How do we square this rub, it would seem, between some who feel like they have to defend property values and others who don't have any property and are just trying to figure out, in this instance, a way to relieve themselves, which if they didn't have, they would be accused of doing it in the wrong place, if you will, and then getting arrested, right?
Right. So how do we reconcile that?
Right. And I say that as a question, knowing full well that I have a different answer, but it's not about me, it's about you, of course.
Okay. Well, we're talking though, and I want to hear what you have to say, but I think, we've got to get folks off the street.
Well, I'll tell you what I say. Right off the bat, I'll tell you what I think. That was one of the first days of the city of Oakland's history in terms of the appearance of not caring about the poor, because it wasn't just that. It was a homeless removal effort. Derek Sue, who's homeless but running for mayor, he's a vlogger here. He vlogs regularly about the condition, and I'm really blessed to have him and be able to pay him. And no, it's not a campaign contribution. And if he were an elected official, I couldn't do it because it'll be honorarium. But I just want to get that in. But the point that I'm making is that it gives a view of Oakland that nobody else gives.
Right.
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 They have all, and that's why.
We need more housing.
That's what I think.
You faded out there for just 1 second. I'm sorry. I missed what the last sentence that you said.
Oh, I said yeah.
Yeah.
I said yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was agreeing. Yeah.
We have on record about 5,000 homeless residents on record. That doesn't take into account folks who are staying with family, couch surfing families who are afraid to raise their hand because they have children and they don't want to lose their kids, because that's a reality. And we don't have enough housing. This is a crisis of epic proportions, obviously, that we don't want to increase. The last 2 years, it's increased by 50%, right? Or maybe now we're going on the last 3 years and it's probably even higher. But we need help from outside of the city too. Until then, I think we need to focus on just trying to get people off the street into temporary housing and then putting together a legitimate exit plan, which means permanent housing, right? I have some neighbors who are homeless in my district who I have regular contact with. And I said to them yesterday, as a matter of fact, I'm working on something. I'm working on something through philanthropy, because that's how it has to be right now until we can have actual justice. And what if I could get you guys into a hotel for 90 days with services, with meals, and they were both like, one of them said to me, "You mean a shower every day so I could wash my bug bites off and put my head on a pillow at night and lock a door and bring all my stuff inside and put some weight back on?" And he goes, "I'd be willing to work for that." And I go, no, you don't have to work for that. That would be for you. And you could just focus on getting yourself to a place where you feel whole again. And I'm doing something. I'm doing something right now. I can't tell you everything. I will tell, can we revisit? I will let you know when it's up and running, but I'm working on it with some other very concerned.
I need to make your vlog so you can tell.
I'm working with some very concerned longtime District 1 residents, because I gotta start small, but I think we gotta just really look out for our fellows, and right now that means putting people. Drivers Plaza folks would rather use a bathroom inside a house with a door. You know what I mean? But this is their alternative, and this is better than if it weren't there. So I'd like to try to work on some temporary housing that turns into permanent housing. That's a big lift, but people need jobs too, And, talking about folks who are sort of on, I'm going to just kind of pivot for 1 second to folks who are suffering from COVID, who are not able to pay their rent right now. We need some relief where that's concerned as well. But we need housing. We need low income and affordable housing, and we need it now. And I was really pleased to see the $90 million low income housing or affordable housing project that is coming up. Did you see that yesterday?
Yeah.
So, but that we got to build that, right? So that's going to take.
It's a pressure to get up. Yeah.
But we're going to look out.
Yes. Hey,
yeah.
Quick question on that note. We talked a lot about those who don't have, but they're business owners who feel like they've been forgotten. For example, Phil Tagami, who actually is a 32-year friend of mine, went on very recently on a Facebook rant, which I posted, as he has an account here. And it talked about, and it's been 3 of them, where he's asking where the city leadership, because there are businesses that have gone, and he's really addressing downtown, which I know is in District 1, but
it's my city.
Yeah. And also, undoubtedly, it may apply to District 1 in cases where Claremont meets College, for example, and every place else. But What's your thought about addressing needs of business as we address the needs of those who don't have any? And why does it have to be either or?
Yeah, we're going to say right. I think there are many areas of need in the city. As I said at the beginning of our conversation, 14% of our businesses operated by people of color in Oakland are getting PPP. What's that? Like, there are chambers who have had to crowdsource money to give grants to businesses so that they could stay open during COVID. That's pretty,
I think,
glaring in terms of,
Zenny 62 Media has a PPP loan, and I did it.
Congrats.
I have to pull out a plug for Bank of America, because in all this idea that large banks don't help Black folks, they help this Black guy. And I think what we have to do is we have to share our knowledge with other people.
Yes.
Because I literally dreamt that I filled out my application the wrong way. And in my dream, Stephanie, I identified where my problem was, and I woke up at 4 a.m. and I corrected it, and then I submitted it.
And then you got it. That's awesome. Yeah, which is why it was very daunting to many, many people. So that was the idea behind the, the sort of the cheat sheet.
Yeah. That's what MSNBC had on 4 people saying all that, the banks won't help us because we're Black, essentially. But none of the folks they had on owned a business. They were reporters. And I'm screaming at the television, said, hey, look, I know I have problems, but just tell the truth. If they don't know, just say they don't know, because what I find is a number of us are intimidated because we believe the rhetoric that's out there. And I talked to person after person after person after person. My mom was saying I should get out there and help people with a live stream, and I'll do that, because she says a lot of people are just scared. And I understand why. It's ever changing, and the initial rules were rather draconian and daunting. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
If anybody needs help, send them to me. I'm happy to help them.
That's really cool. And that's nice, because sometimes that's what it takes. I mean, certainly I'm running for office for the first time in my life. I'm asking people who've been there before. You know what I mean? And that's what you do when you're showing up for your people. Anybody who has a question, I think that's great. I do think that we have to find creative ways to help support and sort of reignite that economic engine of our small businesses. And I watched so many, I have a friend who owns a business just down the street from me. It's a restaurant pub, and he makes great food, but nobody was coming in to drink, and they were not watching games on his TV because there are no games. But he really creative.
What's the pub?
Oh, a wonderful, the Golden Squirrel on College Avenue. Yeah. Andrew Snow owns it. He's a great guy, grew up in D1, you know, is just a wonderful member of this community. And he got super creative and started doing groceries, and you could go onto his website. And so, you know what, we were like, we're going to get our groceries from Andrew, and we'd go pick up a box, and you'd have everything from like blueberries to bags of a pound of sugar and big chunks of cheese and butter and veggies and all that kind of stuff. But I think, you know, I'm looking at like this Slow Streets program, which we love. Like, I've only filled my car up with gas. I have a 10-gallon tank because I have a hybrid. I have a 10-gallon tank. I've only filled up 3 times in COVID, and I'm out. I do my deliveries, but that's kind of, I don't do much else. We're riding our bikes. We're walking to places now. I would love to see us maybe expand that program into areas where there are a lot of small businesses, so that, you know, what if you closed off a street where there were a bunch of retail locations and restaurants, pulled tables into the middle, and, you know, you close it off for a certain portion of the day, and the businesses can sort of thrive again. That puts people back to work. You know, those of us who, you know, my husband was able to do his job entirely from home. Thank goodness. But restaurant owners and retail space operators and things like that, you know, everybody wants a haircut. Hello. You know, we got to get to a place where we're staying safe, but we're helping to promote these businesses anyway. So that's one way. I think if we do start reallocating some funds, that a portion of that should go back into building these businesses, helping to get these businesses back on their feet. For starters. Yeah.
How in the remaining, how do people who don't know how to find you find you?
Well, StephForOakland.com, STEPHFOR Oakland.com is my website. That's my handle on you know, the socials. I really love when people write to me through the website. And if they give me their phone number, I call them. But I try to connect with everybody that comes through. And I really want to hear what people think of the current situation, what their pet peeves are, what their visions are, what they want in their next representative. And so I encourage folks to send me a note or you know, come to a house party. We put them up on Facebook and invite folks that way. You know, we're doing those all the time. So, and then soon I think I'm going to start, got to figure out how to get out there. But if you know, I'll do a Zoom with anybody too. Like this chair, man, I'm living in this chair for the last 18 weeks. Whew. Yeah, it's wild.
Stephanie, hey, stick around in the back stage and we'll debrief. Hey, everybody, thank you for coming in and watching. And please, if you haven't done so before, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube, bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com, and also don't forget, if you haven't done so before, to register to vote. Hey, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Zenny.
You got it. Definitely.